This video is about creating engaging characters in your story, maybe a short story, or in your novel. Now, your main character, along with the supporting characters, of course, are often the most memorable parts of a novel or series, such as a mystery series. Therefore, creating engaging and memorable characters is crucial to developing successful novels or series. And what I'm going to talk about right now examines some techniques you can use right now to create unforgettable, flawed, quirky, and powerful characters. And I'm going to give you some handouts toward the end that'll really help you with this. So why is your main character so important? How many mystery or detective novels or other kinds of novels you know that are either named for the main character or they're a series that have created an iconic main character? Think about Jack Reacher or Sherlock Holmes or Jessica Fletcher in Murder, She Wrote, Nancy Drew, Miss Marple, and the list goes on and on. These main characters are crucial to the success of these stories. And you have to think, how can I create a character that has not necessarily these characteristics, but similar characteristics that are so engaging that readers want to read the story, or maybe in a movie they want to see what happens. So we want to create a memorable main character, and I can't cover everything in this video, so I'm going to recommend a couple of good resources. The first is Fiction is Folk by Robert Peck, and the second is Building Believable Characters by Mark McCutcheon. Now there's others out there, but I would just suggest that you take a look at these two. But let's delve into it. So we want to create characters that the reader really cares about. Characters should be someone readers want to spend time with. They're going to read this hours and hours with this guy or this person. They want to have some ability to enjoy being with them. So your character needs to be engaging, spunky, dreamers, quirky, flawed. So what makes such characters so memorable? First of all, they're imperfect. They're imperfect, yet they're relatable. Someone who's flawed, who has problems, maybe they're unsure of themselves, arrogant, haunted by the past, eccentric, lack confidence or low self-esteem, and yet there's something in them that makes us want to know them better. And one of those things is they go beyond what their inner thoughts are, their inner being, and they have a dream. They have a desire to make things better, to solve a problem, to overcome some obstacle. They have a dream. And also, you want your characters to be believable. In either reality or science fiction or fantasy, your main characters, all your characters, need to act within the realm of the universe that you have created that they live in. They need to be active forces, not wimps, not some passive kind of character. Your main character must be willing to jump into the unknown, to go on a quest, maybe to go where no one has gone before, and to face down some evil or a villain or some sort of obstacle that needs to be overcome. Also, it's very important that the main character has to solve their own problems. So although your main character may be helped by allies and a mentor, in the end they have to solve their own problems. Never, as they say, God from the machine. Here's a little cartoon that illustrates this. So here's the guy, Billy, in a heck of a mess. How can I possibly get out of this? The omnipotent superhero, God-man, slightly shifts his weight, and suddenly Billy is on a beach in Costa Rica. Huh? What happened? I've suddenly been rescued by some force utterly outside the context of this narrative. How unsatisfying that story would be. So no. Your main character has to solve their own problem. Now, you and I would make a horrible MC. So your main character may have some characteristics of you, but they have to be over the top, because characters in fiction are abnormal. They're not really like your average Joe. Otherwise, they'd be too boring. So they are exaggerations of real people, put into exaggerated circumstances. Even their dialogue is not the way we normally speak. So you need to be careful of that. That's another video you need to watch. they may have characteristics of a normal person, and they may need to appear and act like real persons, and they should somehow, but still, somehow, they need to be over the top. Now, you have to know your characters. I mean, really know them. Many writers create a biography of their characters for their main character and also for minor characters. I would suggest you do this early on. Maybe you already have a plot, maybe you've written the first chapter or a draft, but now, take a little time and begin to understand in depth who your character is. Get to know them, and that will help your story come alive. One thing you need to know is what is their backstory. That is, what happened to your main character before the story ever began? What brought your character to this point? What incidents have shaped their lives? Now, you don't have to include this information in your story. In fact, you don't want to info dump all this information. But you need to know that information because it will influence how your character acts and how they do what they do. Now, eventually, maybe some of this will be revealed in your 7th novel or somewhere in your story, never as an info dump, but maybe it filters out somehow. But the important thing is you know it. You know what this main character came from and what makes them act the way they do. So, I encourage you to interview your main character. What's their name? Choose a good name, a memorable one that fits in with the context of your story, like Luke Skywalker. Sounds like someone in a space trilogy, doesn't it? Or Atticus Finch. Sounds like an attorney. Katniss Everdeen. Jack, for all these names, pick one that fits your situation. And you need to know, where were they born? Where do they live? What era in space or time is it? And how old are they at the time of your story? What do they look like? Height, weight, hair color, eye color? Do they have tattoos or scars? Do they limp? Or what other features do they have? Continue your interview by learning what's their relationship with other people in your story world. Who likes them? Who dislikes them and why? Who depends on them or who protects them? Who do they love or who do they hate? What's their personality? What motivates them? What do they do for pleasure, sports? Do they have hobbies? What do they read? Or maybe they don't read at all. This influences the kind of person they are. Are they bubbly? Do they light up a room when they come into it? Or are they an introvert and they sit in a corner? Are they trusting or wary of everyone? Why? I've even given you a handout. It's in the comments below or in the description. And you can use this interview sheet to get to know your characters before you get too deep into your story. I would suggest, I think the most effective way to use this, print it out, hand it to someone, and then pretend you are your main character and have them interview you with these questions while you pretend to be that character. It's going to help you be in the shoes of that character and get to know them even better. So I would encourage you to do that. I think it would be very helpful for you. Here's what others say about main characters. If you don't get your protagonist dirty, your readers will get bored. Readers are wild, cliff-jumping, mud-wrestling savages. Become their leader. I tend to always love material with flawed protagonists and morally ambiguous people. Readers crave protagonists who, after overcoming seemingly insurmountable obstacles, triumph at the end of the day. I keep a list of everyone I've ever met, and I bet those people appear in their stories. So each time you create a character, think about any deep, secret characteristics of your main character, their worst, deep kinds of desires and dreams and thoughts. Now these, again, may never be explicitly revealed in your story, but they're there in the background, in that person's mind, in their inner thoughts. And again, maybe some will eventually be revealed. But think about other people you've encountered, and also apply these characteristics to the people in your story, either to your main character or some of your supporting characters. There are so many interesting people out there in the world, and you know some, and you can take their characteristics and expand on them, exaggerate them, and give them to your main character or supporting characters. Now, we also want characters that engage and sell books, because nobody wants to read about boring characters. They have to be emotionally complex. They have to make these bad decisions, as I mentioned. They have to get caught into something that they cannot manage. They get depressed, angry, frustrated, and they lash out at others. And while maintaining these inward characteristic traits that have shaped them, that you know about, their inner personality, somehow within that, they have the ability to fight back from these disasters and ultimately to overcome and to win. Think about your character's character. Give your character a set of rules to live by, intrinsically woven into his or her fabric. These are the rules that a person lives by. You need to know these core traits that drive your character's decision. Why do they act the way they act? Now, why do you need to know this? Because you're going to throw this character into situations that are tough, where they have to make decisions, and you have to know what decisions they're going to make. And those decisions are going to test these beliefs, their core beliefs. So, you need to think about what kind of character are you going to create. One example is a fish out of water kind of character. What is that? That's a person or a character within your story who is somehow set in a foreign or odd situation. For instance, the mermaid in Splash, or Data in Star Trek. Here's an android living among humans trying to figure things out. Buddy in Elf, Marty McFly in Back to the Future, particularly when he goes back in time or forward in time. He is in a foreign country, basically, a foreign situation. That is a fish out of water. There's a lot of other kinds of characters you could create, and I'll mention a couple others. But you need to define your character through their actions, because actions speak louder than their thoughts. A character who reveals himself only by thinking is weaker than a character who is really acting out things. Again, this is part of the show, don't tell. So have your character make bad decisions, and then have them try to crawl out of those bad decisions. Put them in bad situations, and have them deal with it. You need to know what kind of responses they're going to make to these bad situations, because that's going to reveal that person's character. Now, examples of this. For instance, let's show one. Here's the hard-nosed character, like often a detective or something. The hard-nosed detective who is a no-nonsense with people, but he baby talks to his cats. Maybe he's someone who seems to be throwing in his lot with criminals, even to the reader. But really he's leading them into a trap. So your character, even though they do things that seem out of character for a while, it may be part of their plan, because they are staying true to their intrinsic beliefs. And it's going to come out later in the story. An example of overcoming a problem. So here's Biff in Back to the Future and George. So George has always been bullied by Biff Tannen, but he comes up with the courage to punch him and win the girl. So he's bothered by Biff Tannen, he's controlled by Biff Tannen, but somehow in his deep character, he gets the courage to wallop Biff in the mouth. And as a result of that, he overcomes his problem and gets the girl. Or in Gone with the Wind, here's Scarlet. Scarlet faces a lot of big, huge problems in Gone with the Wind. And yet, within her intrinsic characteristic is the statement, after all, tomorrow is another day. She has this forward-looking ability to say, no matter how bad it is right now, I can look forward to tomorrow. All right, I've given you a couple of handouts. I already mentioned the character interview sheet, and there's also a typical submission formats that will come in handy once you have your story ready to submit to someone. So I encourage you to download these. They're again mentioned in the comments or the description below. And if you can do that, then I'll say congratulations. If you can apply these kind of character traits that I've mentioned here, then you're on your way to create great characters. I appreciate you watching this video. If it's been helpful to you, I ask that you subscribe and that you click the like button. Thanks.